If you just plant a seed in the brain, everybody's going to taste it.
You ever have those days?
I'm tasting dried strawberries.
Son of a bitch. Yeah.
I'm tasting dried strawberries.
You know what? You're right. I was about to say that. Have you ever had a dried strawberry? No.
I think I have.
I have a friend that was in one of my distributors was in a big fancy wine tasting one time, and he's a pretty straightforward guy. And one of the things that the person conducting the tasting mentioned was boysenberries. And so he raised his hand and got called onto this very serious room, and he said, "Who the fuck knows what a boysenberry tastes like?"
Yeah. All right, so for those of you who are joining us, we are live in the lounge. We're live on Facebook and all of the socials right now. We've got about 1:10, and we'll go live. And this show is for you. Everyone just gets to tag along with you. You ready?
Yeah. I'm gonna clam up as soon as you hit play or whatever it is.
Oh, no, it's playing.
Yeah.
No, clam up now.
This little thing going on in the background right now. This little video. People on the internets are seeing that. But they can hear us.
Sounds good?
We will. Larry Adams, Zach Patterson, Frank, the tank is in. Is Zach back in? Zach, are you back in New Mexico? Yes. He is.
Send us a smoke signal if you are.
Yeah.
No, it isn't. It isn't.
Larry Adams.
You can say whatever you want.
Larry Adams is in Missouri. They're probably just like lighting tires on fire there. Just get the smoke going good.
That's what's going to be happening. So if you want to pay attention,
Marty Upton, Josh is in. How's everybody doing this evening?
that's going to be our live. Ready?
Start sharing this.
You guys ready?
Start sharing this to your friends.
Share the shit out of it.
Share it. Ron's going to share with 933 groups that are on the internet.
All right. Hey,
All the dog groups.
yeah, we are now live. We're now live. That's
true. Yeah.
So should
That's true.
we start this in true Cigar Talk
Yes.
live
Yes.
fashion? Let's go.
Yes. High fives, high fives, high fives. Do it appropriately, man. You're
This guy. When you go to work, do you start right away?
Yes.
Start with high fives.
Hell yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Yes.
boys and girls, Yulia,
Fatu.
Fatu.
What?
She's right there, man.
She's right there, man.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. This is our first ever hybrid show, which is Cigar Talk Live, our Tuesday get-together, where we just do this in front of probably less people than is right here right now.
Yeah.
And this evening, we're also taking an owner spotlight in a launch of the 1842, and it's an absolute pleasure to welcome Darren Cioffi to the house. So
Give
we're
it
going to
up.
try something a little bit different. Pops, go ahead.
We would love to have a true ICC welcome for our dearest friend and partner, Darren Cioffi. Let's hear it.
Hey, everyone. Happy to be here as always. Very welcoming. Might have been clever to have a box of said cigar that we're launching tonight, but you know.
We have
Watch
people.
this.
We have
Watch
people.
this.
I'm sure we can make it happen.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah,
See,
we got-
it could have just been sitting here, but
I mean, anybody can do that.
Yep, that's
anybody can be prepared.
let's start on the rails, shall we?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Thank you very much. He's given us some of his own cigars to
Some
smoke.
of his own cigars to smoke. That's nice. He just bought those.
For those of you who are watching, give this a like, share, and a comment. For those of you who are in the crowd here, feel free, especially once we start getting to like the judgment zone, you're going to have the perfect opportunity, the first time ever, to judge someone openly in front of his face,
Live.
and it's supposed to be aggressive.
No, it's a
and
different
offensive.
strategy because a lot of times we like to talk behind people's back, but now you actually get the chance to talk right to their face.
With everyone.
With everybody.
But we're starting right here on the rails. Darren Cioffi, what an absolute honor. I love having you in the building, and as well, everything you bring.
Thanks, man.
Everything. I mean, you always bring great people, great product, great experiences. Can we talk about this
Yeah,
cigar?
sure. Why not? What else can
Hey,
we talk about?
can't dance
Well,
to
we're
it
going to find
loud.
out what else we're going to talk about. Tonight we're launching the 1842 part of the Archive Collection. First and foremost, we know the Aviator series. What is the Archive Collection?
archive collection is where a lot of our limited products are headed. As many of you know, I was an antique dealer and a treasure hunter, antique paper dealer for many years before I started in the cigar industry. And back in 2013, we made a first project called Money to Burn, where we combined antique stocks and bonds with cigars and their packaging. And it was a well-received project. We were a really tiny company at that point, so it took a while for us to sell through the run that we made. And now we're at a point where we come out with these archive collection projects and they just kind of disappear. But our archive collection is our attempt to combine these two things. So if it says archive, it means there's something, whether it's vintage or cool or old, that's involved in the packaging or presentation of the cigar. But that's not to say that the cigars are just something that we put something old and cool on. They are well thought through, well crafted, limited editions that could exist in their own right. We're just trying to put everything together and release truly special projects that have a multitude of reasons to want to own them, consume them, enjoy them, be around them, rather than just, this is our limited thing, smoke it.
Yeah.
In this particular cigar with the 1842, I think, just by a raise of hands, how many people have smoked the original Money to Burn, the original archive collection? Yeah, not very many. Holy shit, I was expecting more than that.
Yeah, me too.
I'm gonna be honest.
With the amount of fans of that thing.
Well, that just shows how many new bodies we have in this place, which is just mind-blowing. But I don't have any cigars left, but I do have the footband on there. And that was a piece of it. It was an old railroad bond from what, 19...
Yeah, the boxes were like completely wrapped in these, what they call vertical bonds. They're sort of like vertically oriented. Then for the footbands, we used the coupons, the redemption coupons on the bonds. It was nice because they're banknote engraved. They had like the raised seals and the signatures of the president of the company, and they were printed by American Banknote in 1921. Those, but that sounds crazy, but is nothing in comparison to what we did for 1842.
What is different about the 1842?
1842, like if you step back, it's sort of an ode to, and I'm not even talking about the cigars here. This is just the nonsense about the project. 1842, I grew up in New York. I'm from Long Island. My business was in the city for many years. And 1842 is basically our ode to New York City, a place that everyone gets at some point in their life. And 1842 is the year that many people say is the birth of modern New York City. It was the city existed for a few hundred years before, but it struggled. There wasn't fresh water in the city. They built the aqueduct, and when that finally opened in 1842, the city could thrive. Fresh water reached the city. They could put out fires. Everything became more sanitary, and that was really when the city started to become what it is today. And that's sort of just a coincidence, because the other side of this project has much to do with the New York and Harlem Railroad. And the certificates that we have inside this box just happen to be issued on a great year for them to be issued if you're talking about New York. New York and Harlem Railroad started, I think, in the 1830s. Prior, transportation in New York was via bus, horse-drawn bus, of course. And it was expensive, like people, it was like movies. You see everybody on top of the bus, hanging off the side of the bus. It was not convenient. The New York and Harlem Railroad was the first railroad of its kind. It was the first street railroad in the world. So trolleys worldwide originated at the New York and Harlem Railroad. It started as a way to connect central Manhattan to Harlem, but over the years it grew, and it eventually connected cities as north as Canada with New York City. So both people moving north and people moving south, it created a vessel through which goods and people could flow from Manhattan. And we had this small run of documents, and they are, like you said, all issued in 1842, and each one of these 500 boxes all has one of the documents on the inner lid. It was an important railroad for many reasons, but it's, we're here to talk about cigars, so I think that New York Railroad history is...
But I do like
you're
the
gonna
fact
be
you were
surprised.
talking about the fact that not only is there a piece of acetate on the front if you want to leave it, but you have basically acid-free protection on the back side of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a significant document, right? This year, it's 180 years old, and people are not finding that when they're hunting for it, let alone along with some cigars. So we packed it in such a way where we have the plastic in front and behind the document, so that if you leave it in there, it's not going to be affected by the acids in the wood over time. Or if you want to pop it out, it's protected on both sides as well.
Can I ask you where you found it? How do you come across a 180-year-old document?
I mean, I've been a hardcore treasure hunter and consumer of just massive quantities of paper since the early 90s. So I'm kind of at the top of the food chain in that, and I couldn't even tell you where I got these. I've had them for, a really long time.
I remember when he and I, when we were in Omaha a couple years ago, you and I went down to Lincoln, and when you're coming back, you were actually on your way to someplace, but you were going to buy an astronomical amount of documents. And I can't remember how many, it was hundreds of thousands of these documents, but it was just all different types of documents, but he was on his way to, the next stop was going to be to go
I
buy
wonder
this.
what that was.
It was something about
Massive.
checks, wasn't it?
Maybe
Was it
a
a whole
check
bank went
deal.
out? You went to collect a bunch of checks?
I bought so much stuff like that over the years.
So the first question is coming in, and if you have questions, feel free to put them in on the comments section or just put them out there. JD Mars is coming in. Can we start the judgment zone question by judging your jacket right away?
Sure, man.
And
Well, I'd wear the shit out of that.
I would too.
Yeah.
You know,
I couldn't wear it like that.
The thing is, I've had this jacket for years. It's the first time I've worn it. Not because I don't want to wear a bunch of paisley around, but I'm always traveling. And this is a jacket you can only have one night of a trip, right?
Oh, for sure.
So I can't bring it like to Europe and wear it 5 nights in a row.
Yep.
So I thought, you know what, I got to finally wear that thing. So
Yeah.
one night. Tomorrow I'll be in a more conservative outfit. I apologize, JD.
Don't. Oh, to JD Mars, you're
I
gonna
don't want to
apologize?
offend your
Don't
eyes.
apologize.
No, offend away. This is what's happening right
JD
now.
lives
He's
in
just
Paris,
fru-
Texas.
Yeah, he's just
So, yeah.
he's just frustrated because he can't have that.
We have a
jacket.
Paris, Tennessee, so I can guess
There
what
you
it's
go.
about.
Yeah.
Same guys.
Now,
So-
we had another question come in, actually. Is that the original document in its original size?
Yeah, this is not a reprint. This is the actual. It's a stock certificate transfer document. So you can see it was signed and issued in New York in 1842. I mean, it's the real deal.
And that's just all handwriting.
Well,
Some-
it's a partially printed, partially manuscript document. So you have the printed exterior, and then in fountain pen they would fill in the details, like who the stock was assigned to, the quantity of shares, the date, the day, the signature of probably the president of the railroad or a secretary or someone like that, and some other notations. The number of the certificate. That we would say partial manuscript, partially printed.
If we take a deeper dive into the cigar itself, because you have probably the most remarkable and most memorable packaging of anyone in this industry,
Thank you.
maybe in any industry, but your product is also unbelievable good.
No, I appreciate it. It's
Can we hop into the box, into the blend, into the cigars and get nerdy on them for a second?
Of course, it's a Lancero. It's all the Lanceros that we're currently making at the new factory are slightly larger than what you're used to from us. They're all technically a 40, so they feel a little bit bigger in your hand. So if you're a person that's not typically smoking Lanceros or really thin cigars, it's a nice gateway product. The one thing that I hesitate to say about this cigar is it's a very special wrapper. I found a small amount of it with another producer who had some aside for a long time. It is a San Andres, it's a Mexican San Andres, but I hesitate to even say that because nothing about the qualities of this cigar, the flavor profile, the style, the appearance suggests that it's a San Andres. It's just sort of a dark brown. We were looking for something that, of course, the flavor and mechanics came first, but we were looking for something that just fit with the rest of the project, looked at home in the box. We wanted that dark brown that would look great with the gold and the document and the top sheet and everything else. And this fit that bill. And then when we started playing with it, it worked as well as a wrapper. The binder on this is Cubra. We're using Cubra now, both from Zimbabwe and the original Cubra from Brazil. And this is the traditional Brazilian Cubra binder. And then we have 2 Dominican fillers, but I don't want to lie to you. I blended this a year ago, so I don't recall what we used at this point.
What do you get from it? What's your experience with the cigar? Because I think it's important for those who are watching, for those who are in the crowd, is I think we get pulled into this mindset of we have to smoke a cigar to pay attention to the flavors.
Yeah.
How do I get flavors? When I hear you describe a cigar, I pull a lot of that. when I'm in the humidor? How would you describe it?
I'm always talking about how things are not consistent, right? Like, and I smoked one of these yesterday, and you called me. Like, if I was just a consumer and I had this cigar, what I told you yesterday would be completely different than what I'm about to tell you now. And it has nothing to do with the cigar. It's me. Something that's going on in my palate right now. I don't know if it's because I had just some sweets here and nothing else, or I have no idea why. But right now, I'm really sensitive to dry, fruity flavors. Like, I had my African cigar before, and it was giving me so much. It was like a fruit roll-up in a sense, right? Like a tart, ripe, dried fruit. And I'm getting so much of that here too. That's not what this cigar was designed to deliver. I mean, yes, it has some of those qualities, but they're not what you might list first. The balanced spice, like this was designed to be one of my spicier cigars, because we don't play around with a lot of spice. It's just gone for me right now, and I'm confident it's not the cigar. So my current experience, I'm having one of those days where everything is tasting good and fruity. So go ahead in there and grab, whatever you couldn't get rid of, because
That's a good day.
it's the time for me to smoke it.
It's a good day.
I smoked it. It was my first cigar of the day. I have a tendency to be really sensitive to pepper on my first cigar of the day. And I was getting just this beautiful white pepper, black pepper. It was just the right amount. It caused me to salivate a ton. And then as I got to the end, this high acidity brightness started coming out. And it just, to get a cigar that takes you through this journey is so much better than these one-note wonders that, it starts and finishes the same. It's a Padron is a good example that it starts good and it ends good, but it was the same thing all the way through the ride.
Is anybody smoking an 1842 right now? What do you guys? Oh wow, yeah. What? I guess we're at that event, so that makes sense.
Making up for the money to burn.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going for. What are you guys getting out of it when you smoke it? For those of you who are watching, you don't have access, so you just get to pay attention to what everyone else is enjoying.
And don't say boysenberry, please.
Yes.
Yulia. What do you get from it? Pepper? Pepper? Caramel and nutty. Terry, what are you getting?
Yep.
It's starting to transition for me. It's a medium flavor. I'm picking up the fruit notes.
Medium, fruity,
yep.
fruit roll up. That's
I think Ryan nailed it. I was starting to notice this apricot fruit roll up became
Dried apricot,
real apparent.
now when you're pulling some of those flavors, when you're trying to develop a blend. Let's say you hop into a blend that has a flavor that you really enjoy or a profile you really enjoy. How do you identify where that's coming from? And how do you alter that? Let's say you're maybe in the second rendition and you want to amplify something. Do you smoke each individual part of that cigar and try to identify where that's from? Or how do you do that?
It never works when you try to do it in a smart way, like what you just described, and most of our starting points are from like previous failures. Like we were just talking about before, I have this cigar that's not released and it's soft and buttery, and that's what I wanted for that cigar, but that was derived from one time when we were tweaking the Vonquier blend. Vonquier is meant to be like medium and big, full flavored and in your face, and this one blend was just like soft and butter. It was like melted butter, and I said, this is great, but it has nothing to do with what we're doing here. So we kind of shelved it, but I kept a note of what we had. So when we did start working on the cigar that we're using, that blend, we use that as the starting point and then carefully tweak that. More often than not, if you have something that's sort of working, you're just playing with the primings or playing with the order of the tobacco and the filler. Like even that can impact the final outcome.
It's unique because you have so many different cigars in your portfolio, and they're all objectively delicious and different. And I'm a huge kudos to
There's
whatever
a lot of
you
stuff
do.
to play with out there. There's a lot of great people. There's a lot of great, I'm a treasure hunter at heart. I love looking for stuff. Looking for tobacco is no different than looking for old paper. And a lot of it is, I go to I've had competitors of mine say, well, I'll just go to Europe and buy all the same stuff you buy. I say, great, come with me. I'll book your flights. I'll take you to the shows. And I've literally done this for people, and they find nothing. And then I go to the shows, and people say, oh, and they pull out the boxes from under the table. Tobacco's no different. There's a shortage on the market, so you just have to know people, be good with people, do the favors back, and there's a lot of great stuff to play around with. But
Obviously, the case in point is Cubra, because the one thing we're hearing right now is Cubra is gone. It's a Cuban Brazilian hybrid seed. It is gone, and was able to score five bales of
the binder. I think it was sold, and we still managed to snake it out of there. But that led us to play with the Quisqueya is importing a lot of tobacco from Zimbabwe now, and they're growing a few different things. But one thing they have is that all of this Brazilian Cubra seed grown in Zimbabwe, and it didn't work at all. Like when we were reblending the Accomplice White Band, we were looking for an alternative for the Cubra wrapper that we use on that cigar, and like it didn't work. We tried that as binder, it didn't work. But the tobacco was interesting, and so like that evolved into some other projects. The larger strap hangers, we for the first time used some Zimbabwe filler, and I think those African tobaccos, wrapper, binder, and filler, are something you're going to see us play a lot more with in the near future.
Does anyone have a question for Darren? Really globally, but it could also be trivial. Like one question that I would like to go with is like, what? This is kind of related, but mostly not. Which is, I kind of want to judge him on this.
Of course.
Just, what's your playlist in your car that you don't want anyone else to know you have, but when no one's in it, you're listening to it?
You want me to purposely tell you the embarrassing songs I like?
Yes.
That's exactly
you
what
understand the question.
We're here for that. Actually.
I have that. There was a Jennifer Love Hewitt had a one-hit wonder song, like in the '90s or something, whatever that was. I can't remember the name. It's terrible. She's terrible in it. I love it. I can't get enough of that song. I have it on a few I'm
gonna have to look that up.
I don't want to say iPods, but it's a good song.
You probably do listen to that on
That
an
might be
iPod.
the most
iPod, yeah.
embarrassing thing, but like definitely there's some others. Like my favorite bands are Cake and Guster. When they're around, I always go and see those guys, both those guys. I think the Jennifer Love Hewitt is about as embarrassing as it gets.
Yeah,
right?
we'll move on from that. Yeah,
I mean, I'm not like listening to the album or anything, but
Zach Patterson
go
comes in
find
with
the song. It's good.
He'll put us back on the rails here. Zach Patterson asked the question,
Yeah.
what was the inspiration for you to do small batch tobacco, and why is it that it makes it such an amazing product in the end, going small batch versus larger production? And can you scale small batch to large production?
Yes and no. I mean, the reality is everyone is doing what I do. You know, they're just, to one degree or another, pretending that they're not, in a sense, right? Like this tobacco it's not static. It's not like we're growing wheat and it's the same, or like we're not Budweiser. We're not making the same thing that we can tweak and make exactly the same all the time and maintain this product that's been perfected. This is an organic thing that's grown by people who might decide to grow something else, or might decide to use a different fertilizer, or might do any number of things that are going to alter the products that we're using. And it's no different for me than it is for the big guys. Big guys might be able to buy $30 million worth of wrapper leaf because they decide it's good and sit on it, but guess what? The shit is changing there too, right?
Yeah.
So you're not just constantly making the same cigar, period. I don't care who you are. So if I'm going to play with that, I might as well, A, be honest about it, and 2, play with it at a level where I'm making really good stuff. I don't want to fuck around with, trying to make boring cigars consistent all the time. It's just that's not an endeavor that interests me.
The rest of the industry's figured that out.
I like that.
There's people that know how to do that well, right? And
They've mastered it.
It's not me. I'd rather have something that's always just a little bit better, a little more interesting. I mean, there's disadvantages to it. I mean, there's times we make something, it's great, and we test it a few times over time, but like things change, something goes wrong. But I think overall we're definitely benefiting from exploring the height of the craft and what great stuff we can produce versus just trying to have like, this is the XYZ whatever and it's going to be like that forever, even if behind the scenes we're going to change this stuff every 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell. Okay. By the way, Ty, it's kind of cool that they have your birth certificate in here.
Damn.
Yeah.
Your birth certificate is inside the original document. Not from 1842.
1842.
I thought we wasn't going to talk about that.
Okay. That's right.
You look good though.
For 180.
What's that term?
Sexy chocolate, man.
Sexy chocolate.
For those of you out on the internet, we do let anybody wander in here just to.
We are open to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to go back and tell one of my. I'll get you guys.
We've got something coming back here. Is that a 6-foot ash you've got going back there? But yeah, why don't you bring that up here to the camera and show the class, will you, please? Damn. All right, so
hold on just a second. Be careful. We got
this segment and this question might actually break Darren's heart, but whoa.
Oh, yeah.
You got to show it to the camera.
Yeah. That is definitely going to be out
That's
of focus, but it
1842.
doesn't.
That's a Lancero ash.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a 15-second delay, so we saw that twice. Whoa, impressive. Well done.
Amazing.
So I want to tell.
Why don't we give a round of applause to that?
Yeah.
Shall we?
Yeah.
What's up, Chris Thomas?
So 5 years ago, we're coming up on our 5th anniversary. 5 years ago, Darren was the first manufacturer to walk in our door. We sat in the back and spent hours in the back just talking. And I don't know if you remember this conversation, but one of the things that always struck me about Darren was he talked about the small batch aspect and how from time to time a certain wrapper will get exhausted, a certain binder, a certain filler will be gone that made a cigar special. But that will cause the cigar to be reblended, but it will never get worse.
Mm-hmm.
It will always strive to get better. So I think
the party line anyway. It's
that's the
better.
party line anyway. But let's stick with that because it sounds great. But I think that's one of the things that impressed me so much about Darren and his attitude towards the product is we're going to make the best product we can make today, and if we have to make a change, we're going to change for the better. And the one was the KBF Gold, I think we called it, or limited edition. That's always changing. It's always something different. But the fact that even our house stick, which Darren was the first one to do a house stick for us,
The only one to do a house stick
for us, has admittedly said, this is going to change. That's a
And
really
it-
special
it
wrapper.
It did.
And it did.
But it's gotten better.
And it got
Thankfully
better.
for the better, yeah.
And it got better. So that is one thing where when a manufacturer strives to always improve the cigar, even within the existing facings, it says a lot about the integrity into the man that he is.
But
so,
to your point there, and I think this is an important punctuation because at the end of the conversation, when we spoke about this conversation probably a month ago, when we first started, I think if you go into that humidor, a big selling point to industrial cigar companies, you're going to find cigars that you don't see elsewhere. It's different. It's a different selection. It's highly curated, and craft cigars live in there. But if it wasn't for that conversation with Darren, we would have gone a different direction.
Yeah.
At that point in our business, we were just trying to bring in cigars because people wouldn't sell us.
Don't sell yourself short. You guys, like when we blended that first house pyramid, we had a few options. We revised it a few times. There was a point that I believe, without boring everyone, there was a blend that I think was technically better. And yeah, it was technically better, and you made the super intelligent decision, without going into details, to use the B, I think it was B or whatever it was,
Yep.
yeah, B blend instead. And that said the same thing to me about you guys. It made a lot of sense. It was long-term focused. It was a great decision. Again, without going into details, it was the same thing. I knew, like, these are the guys I want to work with.
C was for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
C was for us.
Yeah, it was. And I think that was a great experience, but I think you're exactly right, Brandon. I mean, we went to distributors and said, what works in Dallas? So when we opened, we had a bunch of Poltergeist, we had a bunch of Fuente, we had a bunch of Drew Estate, we had a bunch of stuff on the floor that ended up sitting. But Accomplice white labels were like we were selling them for free. I mean, and it's one of those cigars that just, it is, and I to this day, I say, the reason we don't sell Rocky, Perdomo, or Fuente is because they literally don't have anything at twice the price
Up at
that
Accomplice.
comes close to an Accomplice white label. Nothing.
And-
And now with this new Polish cigar and some of the other experimenting that you're doing in the Accomplice arena, you know, those guys, they just don't stand a chance.
We spent a year on those Accomplice classics, like bringing them to another level. Like Accomplice it's a strange cigar because in certain markets, like European markets, certain shops like yours, it's a phenomenally good selling cigar. And you know, Accomplice in general, all the blends, the Connecticut, the Corojo, the Classic, and the Maduro, it just needs more attention, both from us, from a marketing perspective, from a branding perspective, and it needs to get out there more. So that's why we spent this last year really working on those blends. And I think they're all, Corojo we haven't touched yet, but the other three are at a place now where you're going to see some surprising changes, really just, I think, leaps forward for the better.
Jim Stanko will know this because Stanko, I pulled one of the Polish down for him, and if you guys haven't smoked the Polish Corona that's in here, I pulled one down for Stanko, maybe one for you, Morgan, as well.
Oh, I stole one.
Okay, so he stole one.
Yeah,
Nate, get him. But
Security.
you can tell the difference, right? How would you describe that difference?
It's a much, I think it's a much richer developed flavor than the first round.
Yeah.
And I mean, for the price, it's insane.
Yeah.
It's a stupid price.
All that is like this whole year of working on Accomplice. We always made an exclusive for our Polish distributor that's 46 by 5. It was just for them, but that, because of timing, that just happened to be the first classic that we productionized of the new variety. And we were smoking them, and they were just so damn good. I'm like, I can't send all of these to Poland. So
Yeah.
we pulled some in, and then, you know, the Polish got what they needed. And now all of the new ones that are coming out are like much more in the style of this first one that we've tasted.
And the Lancero, it's incredible.
Lancero is really,
It's incredible.
It's like an intense Polish one.
So
Adrian?
Terry had a question. Ty,
Yeah.
that's what Ty was mumbling in my ear.
So I appreciate what you're saying about it's an organic product, so it's going to shift over time. There are some of us here in the lounge who have a Cuban tobacco palate, and we cannot get enough of the Cochon. So there's a consistency that you find in your lines as well. Can you describe? Can you share with us some of the details on how, understanding that it's going to shift as time goes on? How are you finding that consistency?
So for those of you who are watching that didn't get picked up on the mic, one thing that Terry was asking is, how do you blend for a consistency of experience with a cigar that changes, that will satisfy maybe a Cuban palate, but will really satisfy any palate at the end? How do you take a cigar that really shouldn't work on paper and make it work?
The only reason the Cochon Volant is a little bit different is because we made efforts that we normally wouldn't make because of the ridiculous success of that product. Cochon Volant was never supposed to be a popular cigar, right? It's a cigar that's been sold out 90% of the time since 2013, and we're trying hard to make as many as possible. Thank you. So, you know, as things have changed, what we've done, like there are 2 tobaccos in the Cochon Volant right now that don't exist anymore. There's a Pelo de Oro that's from Peru that they do not make anymore, and there's an old San Vicente from another producer actually that they also don't make and don't use anymore, a big company. And in both of those cases, we bought a ridiculous amount of the tobacco, and we have it sitting there. So for Cochon Volant, 2 fillers that are extremely important to the character of that cigar, we have enough stock that when it comes time for each production, and it doesn't matter what cigar it is, you know, the first thing we do is make one based on what we have that we used last time, you know, see how it is. If it's the same or better, great. If it's missing anything, then we have to decide, you know, do we have to tweak anything? So yeah, the wrapper's changing that we're using on Cochon Volant in terms of, you know, productions, primings, etc. But those important tobaccos that are unavailable, we have this little mini mountain sitting there, and I think it's something like, I have, last I checked, it was like an 8 or 10 year supply. So that cigar, some of the difficult things about that cigar are in place, so we don't have to make the significant changes that we're making elsewhere. But we made those investments because it's such a crazy selling cigar. You know, if there were another Vitola that were similar, I would make similar efforts, if it were possible.
Yeah.
Adrian, you're pretty quiet over there.
Yeah, so let me throw in, Zach Patterson has a question. He was blown away by the Provocateur. Can you explain the thought process behind the creation of it and describe the blend?
Does everyone know what the Provocateur? Does anyone not know what the Provocateur
Hey,
is?
Ryan. Ryan, will you
So
grab a
it's-
Provocateur?
It is.
It's best
This-
explained if I just tell the story. Yeah, I mean, like,
I guess we'll let the brand owner
not
tell
that
the
I
story.
don't know you can't do
No,
this
Brandon,
better,
you do
but-
it.
You want to take a play
sure?
off?
You sure you don't want to do this? Okay, I'll do
Okay,
it.
you got it.
So, like most great things, it was a complete accident. Archive collection, y'all know what that is already. I have about 1,000 old Art Deco cigarello boxes from the 1930s. And I want to make some cigarellos to put in those boxes to release under archive collection. So you buy a little, 100-year-old box of cigars, and that's that. I just had some boxes down there because I was about to go visit a guy that I thought I was going to just make some cigarellos, some machine-made cigars.
Yeah.
And at this factory where we just made Accomplice, one of the blenders was talking with me and said, "Hey, why don't you let me hand make those?" He said, "We can do medium filler, but we'll just hand make. Let me measure the cigar, and we'll hand make something." So these were for boxes of a 3-inch cigar. So we decided it was about a 3-inch by 26. I said to the guy, "Hey, do me a favor. When you're going to make some test ones, make me a few long filler cigars." So he goes down and he makes 3 cigars. I think they were like 5, 5.5, and 6 inches with just whatever he grabbed. The wrapper and the binder are basically the same tobacco. It's this Habano 2000 that's grown in Ecuador. We're using on a lot of stuff right now. We have it both at KBF and at the other factory. We've used it on that cigar that's sort of sleeping. We've used it on some Bad Principles. It's so good. We've used it on a lot of different stuff. It's versatile and delicious. It's the wrapper on the other Money to Burn we're releasing tomorrow. Anyway, it's a great wrapper. And the filler, I can't remember at the moment, but it's a Dominican filler. So he threw these together. I'm like, well, I'm going to smoke one of these. And I light it up. And of course, it's so good. The first puff was amazing. So I sit and I smoke the whole thing. But especially on a 3-leaf cigar, it could just be magic. Like there could be one leaf, the dog pissed on the plant, and it's amazing, right? So I said, let me just smoke the other one. So I smoked the second cigar, same thing. The cigar's beautiful.
Big dog.
The guy's looking at me. He's like, "Hey, if you don't mind, let me smoke that third one." I said, "Of course." So he lights it up, and immediately I see the look on his face. He looks up at me. I'm like, "All right." We make a few more of these. We immediately go over to see Hendrick, and we're like, "Dude, you got to try this." Hendrick, I mean, I love the guy, but 10 years we've been making cigars. Like, the most he'll do if he likes a cigar is interesting, and it goes in the ashtray. Like, if he doesn't like a cigar, which is 98% of the time, it'll be like, well, not for me, but if you like it, that's what's important, and it goes in the ashtray.
Natural salesman.
I've never seen the guy smoke down an entire cigar that he didn't make until I gave him that. The other guy left, he's like, "Darren, that's a really good cigar." So we then go back to the factory. Because that was just nonsense, we grabbed whatever filler was handy.
Yeah.
We tried every other variation for those 3 because we knew we were onto something. Nothing worked like the original blend. Then we ran into a whole thing where the distributor was out of the filler tobacco, so we thought it was done. I'm trying to buy more from other people that may have had this stuff. Long story short, we found more in the warehouse. This is what I really believe will be a crazy, disruptive, and interesting cigar in the coming years. What's so interesting about it for me is, I mean, you could see it's this tiny 26 by 6 long filler, handmade, but I hate Robustos. I never smoke Robustos because for me, you light them up. Maybe it takes a few moments for all the tobaccos to be melding. By the time you're halfway through it, it's too hot. I have to really pay attention to making sure I'm smoking at the right pace. It becomes work. What do I have? 20 minutes of optimal, all the flavors are cracking in the thing. This, you light it up, you're immediately getting 100% of these 3 leaves. It works. It's flavor straight through. When it's a tiny little butt, it's flavor till the end.
Yeah.
It's the kind of cigar you're working. It goes out. You can relight it with a Bic or a match immediately. Everything's right there. You get no ashy, no harshness. And the smoking time, like for me, this is a 40-minute cigar.
Yep.
for fast smokers, and I'm fast normally, but like I know other people have said, oh, it's only like 30 minutes for me. That's still more than a Robusto. This is MSRP $6, long filler, handmade, beautiful, elegant, feels good in your hand. I cannot wait for this thing to be on the shelves.
Everything
it's
that
on
you
the shelves
said,
for pre
We
yes.
have it here.
Yeah.
We've done well with it.
One of the guys was in the back in the private lounge smoking one of those. He said, I think it was JP, he said, you have to try one of these. I said, that's not typically the size of cigar that I'll smoke, but I smoked one, and I was like, I think just after a couple of puffs, I was like, oh my God. I put it down, went to the humidor, bought a bundle.
All right.
Because it's such
And
a great cigar.
A bundle is 50, folks.
Yeah.
And you
At
think
$6.
Do you think about this cigar where it slots in your life? You wake up, you want a cigar with the coffee or whatever, it works. You come to the lounge, you don't know what you're going to smoke yet. Let me just smoke
Get
this
warmed
thing
up.
first.
It's a
It
warm-up.
works.
Yeah.
I don't know how long. Last night I was talking with Elliot, like he was closing. They're waiting for us to leave. I'm like, I don't have much time. Let me smoke up the Provocateur.
I've done the exact same thing.
Fits in everywhere.
Yeah, Brandon starts, sweeping and getting the vacuum out, pull out one of those. 20 minutes, or I'd smoke in the car on the way home. Oh, it's great.
Also,
Yeah.
if you don't like the branding that I put on that thing, fuck y'all. It's listen.
Yeah.
Wait till you see what I'm sorry. You're wrong. If you don't like it, you're wrong. I know art is a matter of opinion, but like.
So apparently the judgment zone has started.
Yeah,
He's judging everybody. Yeah.
It's a valid point.
Yeah.
It's a valid point. It is.
Here's the
Beautiful.
problem.
It's beautiful.
The teal and gold, the way
I
that's
love
gonna
it.
play
So
on
nice.
the wrapper. Oh.
It's classic Art
It
Nouveau.
is.
Like everyone gets Art Deco, works in Art Deco, but Art Nouveau when it's right is something that like not everybody understands, and artists cannot work successfully and cleanly in that style. And I've been working really hard to get it to where I think it's going to impress, and I love it. So when you see that, just know that
It
it's
is.
something artistically close to my heart.
It is awesome.
Yeah, I
Love
and
it.
the show's working because Jim Trader wants 2 boxes of 1842s and a bundle of Provocateurs. So you should just keep talking.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is working out pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
Let's
that-
start talking Commonwealth if we want to sell something.
We should. Okay, so I do want to get into a question. I'm curious where everyone sits on the spectrum, and the answers might break your heart, Darren, but that's okay for me right now. And I'm curious. We have actually, as I look around, I know the answers to this question, but we all have kind of a favorite cigar, and most people who are in this room. Principal, if it's not their favorite cigar, it's firmly in their top 3, top 5. What are your guys at the table? What is your favorite Principal cigar? White Label Accomplice. That's
Go, Sean.
Koshan,
Koshan,
Koshan. Yeah,
Let's change the rules. You're not allowed to use the words cochon or volant.
that's what I was going for.
Yes.
Black Label Night Fly.
Black and gold Koshan Volant.
She only smokes Bad Principal Magnums and Grand Pyramids, Aviator Grand Pyramids.
Yeah.
Those are her two, back and forth. Like, one's a $25 retail, one's $6.
Amen.
Pyramid
Yeah,
House.
amen. The house. Stanko, what's your favorite? Yeah, you and I both. Yeah. The Patria. The new Money to Burn? You're not supposed to talk about that yet, Hensley.
What?
That's what I was talking about. You're rocking the boat.
I'm going to go off the beaten path.
Which one are you going with, Pops?
I'm going with the Martinique. That's what I'm smoking right now. I love the Martinique. I love the Commonwealth. I love the one we can't talk about. But the Martinique is. I'm a Lancero fan, number one. There are 2 Lanceros that just absolutely push the buttons for me, and this is one of them.
You're not wrong.
I fired up today the Patria, and the newest Patria is unbelievable. And for me, the experience is, it doesn't taste like a cinnamon, but it has that sweetness, that buttery, that very rich, elegant, indulgent flavor.
I'm
to
glad
it.
you still get that, because for me, Patria has been the aviator that has been the most difficult to keep in the wheelhouse of what it's supposed to be. Not that it's not. I'm not saying it's not better now than it was like 2 years ago, but it was like Brindille was designed to be the strongest aviator. Patria was designed to be the softest aviator, still within the style of what aviators are supposed to be. And with the changes of that wrapper over the years, it's been really hard to keep that buttery experience. It's still an amazing cigar, but this is what I'm talking about. Like I'm an open book about this stuff, and it's just been tough. Yeah, beautiful cigar, but for me, it's not the like soft, elegant thing that it started as and it's supposed to be. It's more like a Von Care now. Like
It's much more like a Von Care,
right.
but the size is perfect.
So it's a classic Churchill.
Yeah, it is. What's your go-to in your own line?
Generally speaking, I don't like. I'm anything that's new, I'm gonna try. I love the variety. I mean, I would always rather have something I didn't make if I haven't had it yet than something I know I love that I did make. But to what Dave said, like if I had to pick a desert island cigar, I mean, that Martinique Lancero is just, it's so beautiful. Everything about that cigar is beautiful. It's elegant. It's layered. It's got the fruit. It's got the cream. It's got the acidity. It comes at you in billowy layers of elegance. It's just, it's a beautiful smoke. It's visually pretty. The branding is pretty. It's just, it's such a, and I was not looking to launch another line. I didn't want to release that cigar, but I couldn't not do it. It was so nice.
Yeah, so you're doing it in 2 smaller ring gauges because you do more of like a Corona Gorda, and then you're doing the Lancero. Does it not play well if you start to go with a larger ring gauge?
It might not work. I mean, the idea is that the line will eventually have 3 Vitolas. And I have it written down. I can't remember. The third Vitola, we've changed. We've not made it yet, but in theory, I believe it's going to be like we wanted to have a smaller cigar, but we have already a 6-inch cigar, so we may go like 5.5 by 43, 44. Not quite a maybe like a short Lonsdale. For lack
I was
of a
going to
better
say
word.
Lonsdale would be a good size.
But we don't want to do another 6-inch because then you're going to have a 46 by 6 and like a 44 by 6. So yeah, there'll be a third smaller Martinique as well, and same thing. Like if you want a shorter experience that's super elegant and soft, that'll be the delivery system.
Yep.
Adrian, what's your go-to?
What's the 0 to 60? Is that a
That was
principal?
0 to 60 was my birthday.
So his birthday cigar
Yeah.
that we did last August
Had a little
for his
pigtail on
60th.
it.
Yep.
It was
pigtail.
like a little short Robusto.
Yeah.
What was that?
That is derivative of a frothy monkey blend.
No shit.
Yeah, it is a attempt to make them slightly more, because Frothy Monkey is made for a coffee shop chain down in the South, and it was a very carefully thought through product meant to go with coffee, and that is we took that blend, we changed it to like more or less a Robusto. I think it's like 4 7/8, something like that.
Yep.
But it's like a slightly more premium, but really just different tobacco, Robusto-ish version of a Frothy Monkey.
Yeah. I mean, because
It was good.
everyone mentioned the.
I got one
cigars.
bundle of those sitting in my humidor at home from that time that we didn't
I
use.
have 2 packs left.
Well, he's got a bundle though. 61.
Yeah, and my birthday was just.
Yeah.
It feels like it was just
There you go.
yesterday. So Yulia can take it out of the luggage and give it to me.
Are you guys ready to judge Darren? You guys ready to judge
Hollywood's
Darren?
over there going, yeah.
Yeah, good. All right, I don't see Hollywood over there.
Hollywood's over
All right.
there.
So this is also kind of a hybrid Cigar Talk Live, and we asked 3 questions. We call them the big 3. This gives us an opportunity to judge our guests. I think we've come this far in the conversation. For those who didn't know Darren, I think you've got a good understanding.
Do
He's
you think that a guy that used the words Jennifer Love and Hewitt is going to bullshit you tonight?
No.
No.
No,
It's not going to help you.
He has embraced the fact that it's the internet, so you have to tell the truth, right?
So with this, here's how this works. We have 3 big questions. They're character judging questions. This all sits on a spectrum from 1 to 10. 5 doesn't exist. 1 is hell no. 10 is
0 is hell no.
no. 0 is you.
0's you.
And then 10 is yes. There is absolutely no doubt. And I am so excited that Mark McClurkin is here right now. And how this is going to work is we're going to ask him, and he doesn't get a chance to answer this. We all kind of answer it for him. And then once it gets his way, then he can give us his
I'll
number.
tell you if you're right or wrong.
Exactly.
You'll give us
Exactly.
your number. You'll give us your number after we've given you our version of
Our
your
version.
number.
So this has to be interactive. We need like total judgment where you think he sits on the spectrum of this. A 5 doesn't exist. 5 is
Right.
bullshit.
Right.
Pops, you wanna hit with the first
Yeah,
character
so the
judging
first
question?
the first judgment question is very it's very telling. And I think, you come from Tennessee.
I come from Long Island.
You come from Long Island.
Very different than
But
I
you live
live
in
in Tennessee.
He lives in Tennessee,
France.
where men are men and sheep are nervous. So he comes
Ron
from.
laughed way too hard at that.
Do you know why you fuck a sheep at the edge of a cliff?
I don't.
They push back harder. Sorry.
Wow.
Anyway.
So you get the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he gets it. So on a scale of 1 to 10.
Is that Caleb? Did you say a 10 just out of nowhere?
Yes.
All
Okay.
right, good. All right, you get
Scale,
okay, we get it.
A scale of 1 to 10. 1 is hell no. 10 is I've had lunch or dinner with the dude. It is.
You're starting with this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I should have done some research.
Yeah. So where do we all believe on a scale of 1 to 10 that Darren sits on is Sasquatch real?
0.
Man, they just think he's like an intellectual.
Yulia, where do you think he sits?
I don't keep mine. Reserved for myself.
Damn it. All right, Stanko, where do you think he sits?
I'm gonna give him a 7.
You're going 7. Where do you
All right.
personally sit?
I answered this last time, now I can't remember what I said. I would say I was like a 2 or a 3.
Okay. All right. But you think he's on the other side of the spectrum?
Now we will say
You going
this:
3?
the scale is 1 to 10. Adrian, you are
0.
Yeah, 0. See, he just fucks up everything, right?
However, let's talk about front row here.
We have an 11 in the front row
Yes.
because he's had shit thrown at him
Yep.
by said Sasquatch.
Shit or rocks?
Both.
Both.
Nice.
And he's had some of that
Shitty
frozen in his freezer.
Yeah.
Am I lying? All right.
Why did you ask this one first?
Is this interesting? Like, can I just give a number and we go on to the next thing?
No,
Because
this is
like.
I think the second question is where I'm at.
Yeah, I think.
All right,
I think so.
all right then.
right,
Where
fine.
do you sit?
I don't know much about any of this stuff. I just know that, like, okay, we haven't seen any Sasquatches, but, every once in a while, I'm a sucker for these articles where when they find some giant thing that exists on this earth. Hey, listen, let me finish. Just last week, they discovered a giant tortoise that they thought was extinct since 1909. A
Right.
giant tortoise.
Listen,
They've had
Craig,
squids wash up on the shores in Alaska that they've never. Oh, we didn't know this species exists.
Yeah.
The fucker's 40 feet long. We didn't know it exists.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know
So
where this is
I'm not
going.
saying it's a
I didn't know where he's
zero,
going.
but it's still a 1 or a 2. I mean, like, it's just not likely. We would see it again.
But that's a Darren 1 or 2. That's like a 3-4 normal.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's
Qualify
3-4
however you want.
Yeah.
It's not likely that there's a Sasquatch.
All
out
right, so
there.
he's
Yeah.
sub 5. You guys were right on it. You guys, Adrian, will you take the next one because you're.
We talked about this before we started the show. Where you live, what year was your house built?
Well, there was some little structure built there in 1852, but they
Wow.
did a big renovation like 1910. So
What-
you'll feel like it's a 1910
And
house.
underneath-
But aren't there issues with them plowing up your yard to do certain
Yes,
things?
I have bodies everywhere.
Bodies
Catacombs.
everywhere.
Right?
Yeah. I live in a Native American graveyard. I live in a Civil War hospital built on a Native American graveyard.
There you go.
Which segues beautifully into the next question, Adrian, please.
Yeah, the question is, do you believe in ghosts?
Hell yes!
Tell me, was that Busy?
Where's Busy?
Good. Where do you think he sits?
Busy has stayed at Darren's house.
Busy's been to his
visited,
house.
Him and his son stayed at your house. So he's got a story.
27.
Busy's afraid of Nashville after going to your house.
Yeah.
Never will he go again.
No.
Where do you guys think he sits?
Where are you guys at? Where are you guys at?
I know where I'd like him to be.
Yeah.
But I have an idea. I know where he's at. I think
I gotta think he's heard. I know he's kind of a crazy cat guy, so he's got cats wandering around all over the place, which are just the bodies that have come back in a different form.
he has a bonus cat.
He has what?
He has a bonus
Yeah, I
cat.
got a basement cat.
A basement cat.
Someone named it Bonus. Like we have a bonus cat.
A
at the
bonus
house.
cat.
Interesting.
So
Interesting.
I'm going 7 for Darren.
Can we ask Yulia?
Yulia.
As well.
Yulia, where does he sit on ghosts?
Minus 1.
Minus. Wow.
Where do you sit on ghosts?
Oh, I'm a believer.
Yes, good. All right. Then we got to average it out.
Now it's ghost as in apparitions, right?
Yeah.
That we can see. poltergeist, or they're knocking doors down, whatever the case may be. Where, Darren, are you on that spectrum? Because there's a 1B or a 2B question.
I don't think that any real questions in life should be answered with numbers. So I'm trying to play the game.
Use
but I feel
a
like they all
letter.
need to be qualified.
If you need a letter, do a letter.
I'm not saying that people haven't seen stuff. I've not. And again, I live in an environment where if there's something, it's going to be there. I've seen nothing. There's nothing. If anyone sees anything weird, it's probably more likely some parallel universe craziness than.
Busy saw a rocking chair rocking by itself at your house.
I don't own a rocking chair.
He was drunk.
I mean, I've had people that have lived there, stayed there, that have like swear they've seen things, but there's nothing. Come on, guys. I wish there was something. I'd love to know that I can come and haunt all you assholes when I'm dead.
Look.
This is not the case.
Because Ron doesn't like the label of the new Provocateur.
Here's what I do know is Darren spends probably 90% of his life someplace else, usually in Europe.
Yeah.
So I think the shit's going on. They're just waiting until he's gone.
Or they just like me and leave me alone.
That could be.
I have a buddy who swears he talks to spirits and he sees everything. And sometimes we run these big charity events and he does the food sometimes. And he'll sleep like in his truck on the driveway or crash on a couch. And he says that, yeah, there's one ghost there that protects him from the other ghosts. And he goes into detail talking about and whatever. I think it's all nonsense.
We need that guy on the show.
Yeah.
So,
He'd be fun.
so question 2B is spirits. Is there communication with spirits?
No, there's people making up stuff, and there's maybe parallel universe hiccups. There's no ghosts.
Okay. Oh, we haven't asked
These poor
questions.
folks had no idea this was coming.
No.
Okay.
Come on.
No, Josh is coming in. Yeah, he's got to be a 0 if he still lives there. How long have you lived at that house?
Almost 20 years.
Oh my God.
Sean Rat's
20, yeah.
18, something
What
like that.
percentage of
Sean
your time
went
is in
13.
another country?
Pre-COVID, it was like 50-50. Then we had a couple of weird years. It's probably headed back towards 50-50, something like that.
Come on now.
But the other 50 that's in the U.S. is not home. I'm still running around.
Sounds like he's afraid of ghosts.
He still lives
Yeah.
there.
Yep.
Yeah, there's
He's
a
still
reason he's
physically
avoiding his
there.
house.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yulia knows.
Yeah.
I trust her for sure.
Yeah,
All right.
sure.
The third one.
You do the third one.
I don't know where you're going to be on this.
We should
I have
pretty
an
logical
idea.
getting bets. That would have been a good thing to.
Yeah.
We should have. All right. This is
Or ever.
or never. Maybe you don't need to watch this show. None of you.
I watched
Even
the
though
other
this is
one.
Cigar Talk Live, this is our Tuesday get together where we drink too much and then
I think
smoke too
Darren
much.
is my brother from another mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are getting way
No,
too
you guys
close.
aren't drinking tequila.
I mean, we could change it up.
Yeah, that's true.
All right.
I went from
This
that
goes out to you
21-year-old
guys, and then I
whatever this
promise
is.
we might get to some tobacco stuff too, but we're gonna stick on this. Where do you guys think Alien sits on the spectrum of aliens?
We're aliens. Where Darren sits.
Darren.
What did I say?
You said
Where
aliens.
aliens sit on the spectrum of aliens.
Where do aliens sit on the spectrum of Darren?
Yeah.
Zero? He doesn't exist, right? No, that doesn't.
He believes in parallel universes, so I'm going to give him an 8.
Nice.
8.
Logic.
You,
Who else?
you're not asking the question correctly. There's so many things. Like there's a lot of questions. One question is, does intelligent life exist elsewhere? Has intelligent life come and visited us?
That is A and B.
I mean,
as a
yeah,
matter of
completely
fact.
different.
And he may create a C. We don't know.
I think does it exist elsewhere? It's a 10.
Changing our answers to 10 now.
Yeah. And the original question used to be UFOs.
Whether it has a
Yes.
For him to stand up and
All right, so you're 10 on extraterrestrial
somewhere,
life.
of course. Do you have
Yeah.
any idea how big this universe is?
Nope. But
Endless.
I'm with you. What about has it visited Earth?
I don't know, but what I do know is that we now live in a world where, the two big news things that have come out recently, like you can smoke pot in New York City and it didn't even get in the newspaper. Like nobody even, that just seems crazy, right? Like somebody should have said something about it. Not that I care, but like you'd think that that's news. It's not news. We're worried about
not news.
COVID and stuff.
Yeah.
And the Pentagon has come out and said, oh yeah, there's aliens, there's UFOs, we don't know what they are. Like
Yeah.
that's pretty crazy. Why
We
is
got
that
footage.
not on the front
They
page
got
or something?
footage.
Yeah.
I think the Department of Defense said there were 480 experiences that they couldn't explain.
Right. So it's something, right? I don't know if it's aliens or I'm smart enough to know what I don't know, and I mean maybe it's again from another dimension. Maybe it's us from the future. Maybe it's aliens. But there's something weird happening. I don't believe some other country has some crazy technology.
No fives exist, Darren. Where are you at?
That aliens have visited us.
Yeah.
I'm a 10 on existence. On visiting us, probably a 6. Yeah.
Ah, good.
Nice.
All right,
Nice.
go for it.
Maybe
Go
a
for it.
7. I mean, it's probably likely, right?
No, there's aliens.
Is everybody with me? Is there? And I mean this with the utter respect.
As you scan the room.
You've seen this. But I believe that all redheaded women are aliens. I think they have their own convention. So I just think that there's just, to me,
You're like
they're
Eric
just,
Cartman.
They're just out there. Yeah.
You know what? The silence tells me they're all going, you know
Yeah,
what? He's got
right.
a point.
You know what?
Is there any
He's got a
redheads?
point.
Every
Courtney's over there.
female
Courtney's not
actress,
quite redheaded.
every female actress is a redhead.
Charles was.
They have
just-
their own convention,
Charles was
so I
just
know that
combing his
they're
hair right now. I don't
coordinating.
know.
They're coordinating attacks. The redheads at the convention.
Witches?
I hope this isn't the thing that goes viral. Yeah. I hope not.
Sean Rath's coming in with a comment.
Well, you just read it off for the folks here.
Yeah.
What's he saying?
Darren is an alien. No human could blend the stuff that he does.
I will tell you this. I appreciate that, Sean. Thank you very much.
Calling you an alien.
When I was a little kid, I remember like lying in bed at night. That's the thing. I was terrified that aliens were going to come to my window or something like that. I remember being really scared of that. Not ghosts, but. But in a way, it's maybe delusions of grandeur. Like we think I'm important enough, they're going to come to my window. Right?
Yeah, harvest your farts or whatever they do. I don't know what they do. But
Probing something.
Maybe that's
I don't know what
kept
they're
them
doing.
away.
I don't know what they're doing. Zach Patterson lives next to Roswell. He's pretty.
true.
He's pretty convinced.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hey, McClurkin, on a 1 to 10, where you at on the Sasquatch thing? He's got the fucker in his yard.
In his yard. In his yard.
You need to put out some traps, my friend.
He's working on it.
He's got an arsenal.
When we're
just in
talking about
case,
working
yeah.
on it, this guy pulled in with some barrels in his truck. I said, those are cool barrels. What's in it? And he said, it's
Sasquatch meat.
No. Yes. It is. It's a ton
it's feed.
of donuts, right? Or is it a ton of peanut butter? Ton of trail mix. I'm sorry.
About 500 pounds of peanut butter.
500 pounds of peanut butter.
That's not weird at all.
No, he's gonna get this.
He's
son
trying
of a
to
bitch.
kill one with cholesterol. Get one to just drop.
All right. Does anyone want to get us back on the cigar rails there? Yeah. Go ahead.
All right, so as we were talking earlier about the fact that I don't like this size, as it's smaller, I smoke fast, which is super hot, right? And so, Darren, you said it was hot. You said slow, long growth, right?
You said that. I just listened.
No, I told him
Okay.
how to
So here's the
smoke it.
question for those who
Yeah.
are listening. For those who can't hear this, the question. I think there was a question in there. Is Hensley was talking about how size does matter. And then
Where's
Hoskins
Begley?
made a
No,
joke,
girth.
a dick joke real
Girth
quick.
matters.
And then, sorry, Nicole. And then you spoke about because it gets too hot when you're smoking the cigar.
But I disagree with his whole thing about this because it's. I
What's
find
his premise?
It's much. He thinks that smaller cigars are more likely to heat up. I think the opposite. I think it's much. If you're like cognizant of the cigar and you're becoming one with it when you're smoking it, I think it's much easier to regulate the heat in a narrow ring gauge cigar than it is a larger cigar. A larger cigar is going to fool you. You're smoking inside. The burn is moving around. It's getting hot. It's harder to put out that fire, figuratively speaking, than it is on this. If this thing's smoking hot and weird, like right now it's still great and cool, and I'm a fast smoker, but all I got to do is wait for it to go out and then touch it up, and boom, I'm right back on manageable, cool smoke that's going to give me the flavor. The bigger cigar, I think, is a more difficult animal to deal with if heat is your enemy. If you're a fast smoker like me and you're constantly heating up a cigar because you like it.
You brought up a good point. Heat is your enemy.
Heat's the enemy of flavor. There's an inverse relationship between heat and flavor.
So that's my point is, like what Pop said, I slow smoked it,
So what Hensley's saying is, if you can take a slow, long draw and slow smoke it, you keep the temperature down and you get a ton of flavor.
But the other side of it is you want the cigar that is combusting evenly and well, right? Like this is not going to give you the intended experience if you're not burning wrapper, binder, filler in the right proportion at the same time at a temperature that's acceptable. The best analogy that I use is like, we've all gone to I don't know how many coffee drinkers, but if you drink black coffee, you've gone to a restaurant, you just order a cup of coffee, you drink it. Have you ever like taken a sip, you're like, the coffee's not so great here. Like a lot of restaurants have crappy coffee. Then you eat your meal or you have your dessert or whatever, and you keep drinking it, and at some point, as it cools down, you go, actually the coffee's not so bad here. Well, you're not thinking about it, but the temperature of that coffee went down, and suddenly these flavors are opening themselves up to you. It's not rocket science, and it's the same thing with a cigar. Like, putting in the effort to make this thing perform at the optimal level is what's going to give you the intended experience. And some cigars just make that job easier, and some cigars just make that job harder. And the other ingredient is your smoking style. You know, I'm a fast smoker typically. Like right now, maybe I'm talking, so I'm not puffing like I typically might be, but if I want to enjoy this, I'm going to make sure that I do what's necessary so that for the predominant time period of the smoking experience, this thing is combusting at the right heat level, in intensity where it's giving me the right amount of smoke, etc. Because I'm here to enjoy, right? So some effort on my part, and that extends also to like retouching a cigar. Like when I took the wrapper, the cello off the cigar, I had a little bit of a piece of wrapper that was sticking up. So when I got to that in the burn, I quickly torched it. I know so many people that are like, this cigar is burning crazy. Look at the canoe. Like, dude,
Touch it up.
if 2-second effort on your part gives you so much more enjoyment, just blast the damn thing.
Yep.
What are you doing sitting there suffering? For what reason?
Yep.
So that we all can say, I'm so sorry, your cigar's not really good. It should be really good. Well, let me get you another cigar. It's pretty stupid.
I feel so calm now.
Yeah, that's two facial contacts in one conversation here. More slapping, yes.
Yes.
So come in.
I didn't sign up for
contact.
slapping.
Well, you can.
That's
there's
on
one more
Saturdays.
face that
Saturdays
needs to
at
be
shop. Yeah. 10
So
a.m.
let me ask
Central
you
Time.
though, because we have a lot of people who come in that are fast smokers. So how do you optimize your smoking experience if you do smoke fast? And the faster generally you smoke, the hotter it gets.
Look, I get it. Pay attention. You're a fast smoker because guess what? You like the cigar. That's great. Me too. Like when I have a drink and a cigar in my hand, oftentimes the night's over. I still have a full drink. It's not that I don't like the drink. It's that I love this. So when I want to put something in my mouth, this is when I'm not thinking, I'm having a good time. This is what goes in my mouth. But a little bit of effort and conscious decision making on the side of my puffing is going to accentuate the quality of the smoke and the experience that I'm going to have. So just pay attention to your cigar. You're all not stupid. You're here. You're smart. You're smoking something that you love. You're enjoying this amazing product. Let it work for you. Like give it what it needs so that it can give you what it has to offer, which is the balanced recipe of that we toiled over for a year to get this thing right. You want to experience it how we intended, or another way if you decide you like it more. I'm not here to tell you what you're supposed to like, but get this thing to perform. And if it takes a little bit of effort, whether it's slower puffing or relights, I told you in the past, like sometimes this is really great. This is still nice and cool. It's smoking like I just lit it up and there's only a couple inches left. So I don't have to think about this cigar, but sometimes I'm enjoying a cigar, I'm near the end. If this cigar is not so carefully balanced in the combustibility of the different tobaccos, and maybe it's heating up, but I still like the flavors, I'm gonna slow down. And if that burn is gonna fade as a result of my lack of airflow, an artificial increase from the outside will lengthen the amount of time that I'm enjoying the thing. So why wouldn't I do that? You have a $3 tool in your hand to prolong your enjoyment. Do it.
When you're talking about your speed and slowing down, are you saying your draw should slow, or are you saying your
It depends on the
cadence
cigar.
should slow?
It depends, because what you want is the even burn of all these cigars, all the tobaccos, and you want that thick, velvety smoke going across your tongue. This is why I don't subscribe to V-cuts. I don't subscribe to like your crazy trilogy, whatever it is, like these punches. I won't get into it, but like for me, it's.
But we will.
Yeah.
Let's get this thing burning evenly and nicely, and so I can get that thick smoke going across my mouth that's A, cool, and B, all of the tobacco is combusting. That's where the flavor is. That's the optimal performance. And
So if you are going in hard and you are pulling hard, you're burning more filler than you are binder and wrapper?
well, not necessarily. I mean, you could be burning everything, but like if you're going in hard all the time, you're likely to increase the heat. Now, I haven't, like, this is limited, right? I haven't smoked a million of these. We blended it, we produced it. This is maybe the second one I've smoked since we released it. So I don't know how this cigar is gonna perform. What I can tell you is right now, it's a winner. Like right now, not only are the flavors great, but I'm puffing when I want to puff. I'm not really thinking about my puffs, and the smoke volume is great, and the flavors are great, and the heat level is great. So I don't really have to do anything. But if this was starting to get hard, without thinking, I might like naturally make fun of Brandon a little bit, not puff the cigar, and then get ready to artificially ignite it rather than ignite it from air.
Valuable technique.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Valuable
Let's
technique.
start making fun of Brandon.
Yeah.
See how
Let's
we-
move to that.
Yeah.
Let's move to that segment. Don't be
Don't be
stupid.
stupid.
Yep. Ron, go ahead, bro.
Just use that in your whole daily life, by the way.
Yeah.
Part of your secret to slow smoke.
Oh, so Darren said he was a fast smoker, but also
No, that's slow
Is a
smoking,
slow
like all that
smoker.
stuff. That's just knowing how a cigar functions, right? It's a different activity. If you're smoking it for like sport, and you want it to extend, you're paying attention to how it's burning and all that. You're not smoking because you want the experience.
Consciousness of how it's burning.
Well, consciousness in general is good, right? But like, if I'm enjoying, I'm directing my conscious. I'm trying to answer you, Ron. Do you want to hear it? Consciousness in general is good.
Two ears, one mouth.
I'm directing that. You're still going. I still hear words. I got an answer, but I can't get it out. I don't know what's happening. You want it? You ready for it?
All right, Ron.
Okay. You can direct that consciousness in a way that's gonna make the cigar smoke forever, but maybe you don't care about how it tastes, or you can direct that consciousness at the experience and maximizing your experience. And right now, my experience is the things that I'm enjoying are this cigar, not so much this beverage, and the conversation and the bullshitting we're having. So, of course, I want to smoke in such a way that's going to keep this cool and burning nicely. In a competition environment, I don't care that it tastes like crap. I just care that it burns a long time. So maybe then I'm moving the burn around. I'm just smoking binder. I'm just smoking filler. I'm doing other things. But any way you look at it, I'm paying attention to my activity. Does that make sense? Now you can talk.
So I think to that point, that was the technique he was talking about, where he makes fun of you, and then moves to his
And
lighter.
see that? It's still cool. You were just an easier target than Brandon.
Morgan, what you got?
So earlier you mentioned you like to try new cigars more. You like
Yeah.
to switch around. But end of the day, you want to decompress. What's your go-to cigar and pairing drink?
Honestly speaking, that's not a cigar smoking time for me. The only time I really crave cigars, I find that like late morning, like if I go in the office, I'm working for a couple hours, like that's when I crave a cigar. Not that I always smoke one then, but like that's the moment when I really and I want that flavor. Of course, like after a great meal or something, we all would love to smoke. But that's, I don't know, after a really hard day, I want to crash, watch a show, and go to bed. I don't think about smoking a cigar in the evening. But that's just me.
Zach Patterson comes in. Ron just unsubscribed from Principal Cigars. Never. It would take much more than that. Let's go for it.
Hey, listen, I only make fun of people I love.
Yes.
If I don't like you, my mouth is closed. I'm just looking at you. Love you, Ron.
No, you changed the way that I smoke cigars. Where how you smoke at the beginning is different than how you should smoke at the end. Would you explain your own technique, and how do you maximize a cigar that gets maybe bitter towards the end? Maybe people walk away
Have you
from it.
been here for the last 10 minutes or so? I kind of feel like we
Physically?
covered that. Yeah, like the years you.
Well, I mean,
I,
I
sort of feel like we went over this, ad nauseum for.
Well, but you smoke it
Just
different.
say all that shit again if everyone wants, but
I guess we'll move on. I guess that's how we'll do it.
How about you start paying attention, Brandon?
yeah, you get just like you have to pay attention to your cigar, you have to pay attention to me.
Okay. All right. I'm for it. Just light the thing. Okay,
Yeah.
good. You got your time.
Did I get it right? This is what we're supposed to do here, right?
That's how you do it. That's how you do it. Good. He understands Cigar Talk Live. Good.
JJ's got some.
JJ, what you got?
I just want to know, like, how you come up with the names for the
Yeah.
cigars, like Coach Blanc, right? That sounds like it's a designer clothing line,
Yeah, but how does
like Louis Vuitton.
Darren come up with the names of the cigars?
Cochon Volant came because, it's French for basically for flying pig, and it's a flying pig, the Vitola, and when I was first designing the Aviator series, one of the things I deal with in paper is a lot of aviation memorabilia, and the French were great aviators. The French were, not only were they great aviators, but they also cared about style. You had in the early part of the century, like 1908 to like 1915, let's say, you had a time period where humans could barely get off the ground in planes, right? Wright brothers built a box and got up. The French were also caring about making these things look good, which is just crazy. And so I love early French pioneer era aviation stuff. So I buy and sell a lot of it. And also the airships. French were we built airships that were just a blob of fabric and air. The French had nice lines on these airships. The Patria is an airship. That's where I named that. And so initially, actually, Aviator Series was going to be more, I was trying to make some spooky designs that was more airship related. But like none of the artists I was working with were bringing me back. Things either looked too cartoony or they just didn't really fit with what I was doing. So I then went in the direction, I'm like, well, let me play with Art Deco a little more because it's more understood by people visually. This is the first thing that people are gonna see. Now I'm making a cigar, I'm getting angry if you don't like it, but back then I was much more, I wanted you to be happy, not just me. And
It's called sales.
so like the French aviation era in the early days was just something that I love, and so some of our names were French. So I thought, well, it's a flying pig. Let's just use Cochon Blanc as the name for that cigar. The Antoinette actually is not Marie Antoinette or anything like that. You should Google sometime the Antoinette airplane. This is a like circa 1910 airplane that, again, these things barely got off the ground, but they had beautiful wings. They were almost bat-like in the way they were shaped. Yep. I mean, if you look at an Antoinette, it had this long fuselage, also a French word, fuselage, right? I mean, they were big-time aviators. And this thing was just stunning. And I thought that like the Antoinette is our Lancero that we've never made yet. That's what that is. But so that's the name of a cigar that doesn't exist that I just assumed you knew.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I named that cigar after that. I named the Patria after an airship. So it's not that I say everything has to be French, but because of the homage to the French aviators and the French style and aviation of that time period of history, some of the names kind of are French or relate to that stuff.
It works. It definitely works. I love it.
Yeah, we do have some comments coming in here. Darren Cioffi is the definition of style and class. And Zach Patterson comes in and the best damn cigar blender on the planet.
I mean, these are really kind words, and I certainly appreciate them, but I would not look so good if I was not next to mediocrity that is here today.
Yeah.
That's
I
industrial.
really
That's us, all of us, the whole room.
But thank you.
You gotta have ugly friends.
In full disclosure, Zach Patterson's coming to us from a mental institution, and this is the hour that they let him watch
What,
the
in
internet.
Nebraska?
Yeah.
No,
exactly.
New Mexico, you dick.
Yeah, same thing, starts with an N.
Does anyone have any questions for Darren before we kick him out of this place? Do you have time for the Lincoln story?
Sure, but it's not really related to cigars. It's just a funky thing that happened.
This is more cigars than we've spoke on this show for a long time.
All right. Then I guess we can talk about Abraham Lincoln.
Let's talk
do it.
about Abe.
This only came up because I was talking about the business that I'm in, antique paper, and there was a guy who passed away a couple of years ago named Richard Urmston, who was one of the great people that went around and really pulled a lot of old stocks and bonds out of the woodwork. And he would write to trust companies all around the United States, like saying, hey, what do you have in your safety deposit box? And he would try to buy defunct stocks, bond securities, banknotes, things like that. And he found some great hoards, but he was onto the Illinois Central hoard. And Illinois Central Railroad was one of the last famous hoards that was like definitely in existence. You got to remember these railroads. Like I bought out a lot of Penn Central, which was New York Central Pennsylvania Railroad, and they combined. And when I bought a lot of that stuff at auction back in the 90s, it was railroads back from like the 1830s, and everybody, they just kind of merged, and finally some dumb insurance company owned all of these assets. But at least that dumb insurance company was smart enough to say, hey, this is worth something. Collectors care about it. It's history. We should at least auction or let somebody sell this paper, because otherwise the history is lost to the world. And Urmston was on to the Illinois Central hoard, and he finally got to the railroad. They had known where it was for a number of years, and they had appointed some hip young CEO who was trying to save money for the railroad. And he met with them, wanted to buy the stuff, and he goes, forget it, it's gone. And he said, what? And he said, well, we got rid of it all. We don't want to take any chances with what's on these documents. Our lawyers said it's better just to get rid of it, so we destroyed everything. They burned all the documents. And he just kind of looked at the guy and said, right, well, then I have the unfortunate job to inform you that your lawyer was Abraham Lincoln. Mm-hmm. So the reality is these guys probably burned and destroyed an unfathomable amount of incredibly historically significant documents, transfer documents, railroad contracts, who knows
All
what.
signed by Abraham.
Signed and written by one of the the greatest signatures arguably that you could ever have.
Wow.
So pay attention to history, folks. I know this is only 180 years old. Yeah. Only 180 years old, but if you don't like the cigar, go buy the other one with the 180-year-old document in it. Maybe it'll treat you a little bit better.
Those sold out last
Yeah,
year.
and in the words of Darren Cioffi, fuck you, you're wrong.
That's a shirt.
Wow.
Yeah,
There it is.
so, but I didn't think that would get an applause, but regardless.
Abraham Lincoln. That's going to be a new segment.
Yeah. So tomorrow night we will be here again. We won't do this setup, but tomorrow night we are releasing a very special Money to Burn USSR edition.
Yeah, this is a project that we started before the war, and it was what I want to go over. Money to Burn. Money to Burn is a archive collection project that had a lot of historical documents on it, but financial documents. And we had started this project with Soviet era, not really Russian, Soviet Union era documents. So the Money to Burn USSR, there's 2 vitolas. They all have Soviet era banknotes and bonds and the construction. The boxes are super cool. The cigars are great. Like, I loved these in the blending process. The Habano is like, if I smoked it tonight, my mouth would probably shrink in, because it's got so much of that sort of like tart, beautiful, fruity flavors. The Maduro is just a killer Maduro as well. And they all have different, I think each individual cigar is wrapped in 1960s Soviet banknotes. The boxes have different denominations of bonds in them, and the cigars are great. And we only made 200 of each box, and Europe is absorbing a bunch of them. So just come and get them. They're just a great project. That's a cigar that I see the Money to Burn, and people come out of the woodwork and be like, I got X number of boxes of this one still, and I see how that went. This is way more limited, really cool, super cigar. Forget about the politics of the world. Come check out this USSR Money to Burn.
And it's also your
special.
birthday.
And it's my birthday, so
And
come hang.
Tomorrow, it's
Yeah,
Darren's
we'll
birthday.
eat.
And I'm proud to say my lovely wife was in the back. She was the Texas winner of the slow smoke competition, and probably got the last box
Of Money to Burn.
original Money to
Yeah.
Burn. So we still have them sitting in our collection. So and that's where they'll
Second
stay.
runner-up.
Second, yeah, second, the first loser. That's no problem.
No, that's
First
like the
loser,
third.
yes.
loser.
Yeah.
First or last.
That's true. If you're not
That's
first,
it.
you're last. Yes. Thank you, Begley.
Darren, we can't say thank you enough for what you've done for us, and what
Guys,
we'll
don't
continue.
don't be ridiculous. The pleasure's mine.
Okay.
It's always great to come here. I mean, you're warm and welcoming to me, my friends, everyone we bring. It's you do something special. You do something that everyone should just straight up emulate and copy all around the world. I mean, already cigars are the great equalizer. You can go into a cigar lounge anywhere in the world and be welcome. But what you do here is that on steroids times a million, accentuated, and it's beyond special. So if wherever you live, at some point, if life takes you to Texas, come to Industrial Cigars and see what's going on here, because it's something that you won't find elsewhere.
Yeah. If you see a cutting light somewhere, skip it. Come here.
Yeah.
Because we don't
Exactly.
do cutting lights.
Yep.
Exactly.
This is it.
Yeah,
This is it.
we
Spotlights.
get drunk and then get shushed by
Yeah.
Darren. This is way better. Yeah.
And that's on one beer. Wait till you see what happens on two.
All right, let's roll. Ladies and gentlemen, Darren Cioffi.
guys. Thank you all.
Peace. We out of here. And